Well, folks, it is officially the last video that I'm filming in this incredible office. I moved into this house close to about 4.5 years ago, started filming and really decking this entire place out to film all of my content, I guess 3 years ago. A majority of you have seen this just as my background in terms of any of the talking heads that I have done on this YouTube channel. And I've also started multiple other YouTube channels where you see this as my background as well. Well, lo and behold, things do come to an end. And when I say all good things must come to an end, it just means in this case, something even better is about to start. Now, if you've been watching my content for close to 4.5, maybe 5+ years, you know that I built this house with the intention to essentially have a majority of it covered, meaning I actually have a downstairs guest bedroom that has an exterior entrance. Now, the exterior entrance essentially allows me to Airbnb out that room. Now, it's not an Airbnb anymore, but it was when I first built the house. And I actually even added a bedroom on the other side of this office that I then rented out to a roommate, and those two essentially covered my entire mortgage when I first bought this house. But clearly, life happens, and that's exactly what has happened to me. I found the most incredible woman I could ever imagine. We are engaged and set to get married this June, and I also have an 8-month-old boy, and the location for this house is not in the most desirable location to really settle down and have an even larger family than I have now. But it's definitely served its purpose. This house has been great. I actually bought at a really, really good price and location in East Dallas. Roughly about $620,000 was the purchase for this house, and I could probably sell it if I wanted to for close to $1 million. But of course, me being the investor, this is gonna turn into a rental that's gonna cash flow a couple $1,000s a month. So what is coming after this? Well, we've got a temporary rental. Yes, the individual that is so against renting is going to be renting a rather large house in the north suburbs of DFW. But thing is, I'm essentially using the income I'm generating from this property to really offset that property. So you're gonna see a brand new office. But the weird part is that office is also only going to be temporary. That house is gonna be basically a stopgap and get us close to kind of where we're building in Southlake, Texas. And then eventually when we move into the house that we're building, that's over 7,000 square feet in Southlake, I'm gonna have an actual office, and I'm gonna have a completely separate filming / podcast room that neighbors through a pocket door to my office. So I'm obviously excited to turn this into an investment property. Anytime that I can turn a property that I own into an investment property, it excites me. It just means more rental income, more individuals that are paying down my debt. Even if I am moving into essentially another landlord or investor's property and paying his mortgage down, it's only temporary for about 15 months until we move into our forever home. So what does that mean moving forward? Well, obviously the decor that you see behind me is going to be taken to the new office for about 15 months and then eventually transitioned into that podcast / filming room in our forever home. But I'm more than likely gonna hire a professional to completely deck out that podcast room. Now the downside is that's 15 months away, so we're just gonna have to makeshift it work in our temporary stopgap rental for about 15 months, but I'll also let you guys know when that is coming to an end and actually moving into what is going to be more of a permanent place to create content. So within the next week, we're gonna be packing up this office. I still have literally a huge box behind me of all of my office equipment. We're gonna take down this office, do our best, set it up as close to as similar as we have here. It's a much larger space, but it's also an older home with not white walls. So we'll have to, I guess, see how it turns out when we get positioned into the house here by next week. But it means that I'm gonna be 10 minutes away from filming the house that we're building. We officially broke ground just 3 days ago. It's been a process of close to a year and many, many years in the works in terms of just working my butt off to be able to qualify to build a $3 or $4 million house. But being 10 minutes away rather than 45 minutes away means a whole lot more content out and about detailing everything about the process of building that home. Now that doesn't mean that this entire channel is going to turn into just a construction channel talking about building a house, but I'm definitely going to be creating at least bi-weekly content out at the house talking about all the good and the bad that comes with building such an incredible home. Still obviously going to do as I always do, which is talking head content. And if there is any kind of content that you want me to create, I'm always an individual that is open to hearing suggestions. So make sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below if you have any recommendations whatsoever. So as I say farewell to this particular pretty small office, I think it's 8 by 10, maybe 9 by 11, rather small office. I'm gonna be obviously transitioning to a place that's gonna be temporary and then into a larger space. I'm gonna be detailing all of that, but it just brings me full circle. If you've been watching my content, you likely saw that I purchased a duplex, purchased a quadplex. I documented all of that. that. And eventually I decided to build this very house. I met with the builder, designed it with the intention for it to cover the mortgage entirely. Again, I talk about it all the time. A little bit of sacrifice goes a long way, and that's essentially what I was doing with this house. I was sacrificing the fact that I would have to wake up early in the morning when I would go to the gym, knowing that on the other side of this random wall in my house was a stranger. I also sacrificed a bit by having a roommate in my brand new house for the first probably 18 months that I owned this house. But that sacrifice allowed me to offset the overall expense of this mortgage, which, to be honest with you, was much higher than I actually had hoped for when I built this house. But then I was also able to save a ton more money, earn a lot more money, and some of you also have been with me long enough to see my journey building my cabin, which was the next step in terms of building my second house. I built a cabin up in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. So instead of building about 2,500 square feet, which is the size of this house, my cabin up in Broken Bow was about 3,500 square feet. So it was a jump up. And then you also had a pretty substantial covered deck, about 2,200 square feet in the back. So pretty large cabin in Broken Bow. But the process of building this next house, we're taking basically the cabin that I had of about 3,500 square feet and building a house more than double the size. The projected square feet is about 7,200 square feet, and down the road we likely will do a pool. We're not going to do a pool outright, but the entire build process will be an incredible journey, obviously for myself and my family, but hopefully I can take you guys along with me on the journey, and you can see what it's like to be able to go from essentially nothing to building a multi-million-dollar mansion. It definitely doesn't happen overnight, which is one part of why I love creating content. You can go back and see my portfolio when it was 2 million, when it was 500,000. You can see all of the content that I've made on this channel and the growth that I've made over the last almost decade. But again, it doesn't happen overnight. Make the sacrifice now and enjoy the fruits of your labor down the road. As always, guys, I appreciate the love and support. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and give me maybe a week or two. The background may be a little bit different, but we're gonna transition into the next step of my life.